Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, Sleeping Warrior, Arwin, Chocolate saying... Did I miss anybody? I don't think I did. And a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
I'm free!
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good morning.
Good morning. So become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member to check out the rather extensive Freeman discussion that we had in the pre-show, but unfortunately for those who are really enjoying it, or if you're watching this on an after show on the second channel, subscribe today. Then we're moving on. Flat Earth it is, as we're now live. So welcome one and all.
Hello.
Hello
again.
Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
No, the horizon is not Earth's curve. Although they keep insinuating that it is not.
Would that be written down in all capital letters?
Didn't they say
Curve
on
of
the
Earth, capital letters?
Speaking of that subject, didn't the guy come on your show and say it's invisible, but they measured it?
Well, it's invisible because they're claiming that the geometric horizon, the one they need a tangent to, is no longer visible because they refracted it back in 2020 when confronted with the black swan argument. If the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959, then every distance to horizon, that's the geometric tangent point, Earth curve edge, could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and the distance to horizon shown back in 2020 in the image dubbed the black swan is beyond the limitations of a sphere edge with a tangent point called Earth curve at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Therefore, the horizon is not Earth curve. Their response back in 2020 is to tell us that, well, obviously, it's a refracted horizon. That would mean it's got a bent line to it. So it's no longer a tangent point, and the Earth curve in the Earth curve maths is a tangent point. So they've refracted their own tangent point that the geometry for Earth curve at the horizon is based on.
Okay, hang on. Let me go deep on this. So before the black swan, it used to block the bottoms of boats and buildings. After the black swan, it became refracted. So what in their mind is still blocking the bottom of boats and buildings at this point and location that isn't where it's supposed to be?
Well, it isn't, but there's a distinction that's not in regards to where it should or shouldn't be or what it is or isn't. It's who is actually claiming it at that stage. So your average general normie isn't necessarily claiming that it's refracted because the Earth curve isn't a refracted position that blocks boats and buildings. It's a physical tangent point Earth curve edge horizon that blocks the boats and buildings according to National Geographic and the Earth curve calculators, and the assertion that there's a physical hill in the way called Earth curve that blocks boats and buildings. When you point out to them that it isn't and show that it isn't, at that point you can either accept that Earth curve isn't the horizon or start chanting about refraction, destroying your own geometry in a vague, nonsensical attempt to retain a sphere Earth belief with a non-tangent, non-Earth curve horizon that is still based on the Earth curve horizon you can't see anymore. That's an anti-flat earther. So the they is where the distinction comes.
Right. So it separates the normal globee from the anti-flat earther. Now, when you say it's beyond its geometric limitation, obviously they're going to say Earth with atmosphere, you'll never see it, but Earth without an atmosphere, you'll be at that 1.22 mile mark if you're at 1 foot observer height. correct?
Yes, the Earth curve maths asserts that it's at 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That's Earth curve.
I mean, they never made that claim before. You know, we didn't hear anything about how they wouldn't see the curve of the Earth because we have an atmosphere, because all these boats and buildings that were supposedly disappearing in the distance was happening in supposed atmosphere. So what happened? All of a sudden now we can't see this thing that's supposed to be blocking boats and buildings in the distance because we have air here?
Well, I'm reminded,
Weird.
Chocolate, I'm reminded of that Bill Nye video where he shows that old-time sailboat going over curvature of the ball. Remember that one?
Sure,
Yeah.
but we
I
don't.
don't remember.
We don't need to spend our time asserting to anti-flat earthers that they should be claiming the horizon's Earth curve. The fact remains, we've debunked Earth curve at the horizon. Now that's all that needs to be stated. What anti-flat Earth heretics do in this little pond is kind of inconsequential. They're inconsequential.
Bingo, that's where I was going to. They're heretics of the globe model, what the globe states. They don't even believe it themselves.
Yeah, that's why they're trapped here with us.
Yeah, I was going to go there, but
Any evidence of
normies will claim refraction.
Say again?
Even normies will claim refraction.
Even
Yeah.
normies
What
claim
kind of
refraction,
refraction?
did you say? I didn't quite hear what you said.
They won't analyze it much. They'll say, that's probably just refraction. You know.
I still
Let's
didn't
catch
hear
it
you. One more time.
Sorry. Seems to be that even normies claim refraction when they can see too far as their go-to.
Incorrect. So in the curve maths, when they claim refraction as a normie, which is typically one step beyond a normie, if I'm honest, if you're talking about refraction in Earth curve maths, it's a refraction of the target with respect to the Earth curve you're trying to prove with the geometry being a tangent point horizon. So they refract the target with respect to the geometric limitation called Earth curve.
It's a paradox.
Yeah, you can't use geometry if the horizon's refracted because you've no longer got a tangent point to base the geometry on. The refraction included, it's based on 7/6 of the radius. The radius being the tangent point, the geometry, the Earth, radius 3959, that's the geometry. Well, you destroy the geometry when you refract the very horizon you're trying to prove is a physical limitation. They got one step down the begging the question upon begging the question of Earth with a radius and then a sphere edge horizon. But then when that doesn't work, they have to refract the targets. But when the horizon doesn't work, they have to refract the geometry? No, that's a paradox, as Arwin's just said. You can't refract the geometry. It's a tangent. It's a straight line.
Hold on,
It is
though.
amazing.
The problem is that in your conversation there, they did that in the first instance when they applied 7/6R. 7/6R isn't applied to the path of light. It's applied to the circumference of the Earth. So what they do is they inflate the mathematics for the circle before they apply the circle segment formula. What this effectuates in reality is a lowering of the sagitta, which is the apex arc between the 2 points. So in other words, in order for them to demonstrate that the observation fits their model, they literally change the size of the Earth. So it's a category error, and it's a concession that their radius is broken.
Absolutely correct. Couldn't have put it better myself. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
See question number one.
No.
It would have to be a ball first before it's a ball that's spinning.
Yeah, you'd need an axis, you'd need a radius value, you'd need it to be a sphere Earth, and we've debunked all of the above with the first question. Black Swan. No, you haven't got an Earth curve edge. You can't derive a tangent. You can't measure a radius. The methodologies that's been used or claimed to prove a radius or measure a radius utilise flat planes in the first instance. Any evidence of the distance to the Sun?
Nope.
Somewhere in the
They
sky.
thought they had it.
No? Okay. Almost 90 people watching. Wow, we've only been going 10 minutes, so almost up to 100 people. Wow. Fabulous. Please share the show if you've not done so already. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
If you find any capital letters gravity, then please don't forget to register at your local DMV.
Come on, Arwen. No scientific evidence of something that doesn't exist. What is gravity? That they don't even have a single. They don't even have a single definition for it. They have many definitions for it.
Oh, objects go down, go boom, boom.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means gravity.
That's what I'm saying. So is there any other reason why objects, when let go by the hand, go down and some go up?
And some go up, I was going to say. Releases helium balloon.
Buoyancy.
Right. Well, what's buoyancy?
Like Al Pacino and
It floats
like
on top of the heavier gas.
Hold on.
I have so many names.
That got lost, chocolate. Say that
I thought you were going to give the whole quote. I'm the hand up Mona Lisa's skirt.
I wasn't gonna do the whole thing, but yeah, that's what gravity is. It's like whatever you want to call it.
But gravity
So
is just a
is it-
mathematical concept.
Yeah,
Yes.
didn't they make it up because the ocean's trillions and trillions of gallons, if you want to scale it that way, of water has to be kept on a spinning ball going in the vacuum of space. Somehow that's got to stay because something spinning is going to throw out. It's not going out.
Yeah, 107 years ago, that was replaced and superseded by a non-physical, mathematical only. Whoever it was that said that from Discord. Yes, indeed. A reification of a mathematical fourth dimension that we don't exist in. But yes, 107 years ago, they presumably needed a reason to explain away why the water wasn't flying off their reified, flat Earth plane-derived sphere model.
Okay, so in their sphere model, that force is emanating from the center of the sphere Earth, which is presupposed as well. And it's spinning 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, and it's going through all these other contortions throughout their vacuum of space. And somehow that force in the middle is keeping everything in. It's got to be a strong force, right? I mean, if it was real, it'd have to be a really strong force to offset the normal trajectory of going out versus holding on in, right?
But but it's incorrect because there's not a force pulling things. It's the bending of space-time. So mass is redistributing itself, causing the space within space-time to bend, causing things to move.
Well,
By
Isaac,
happenstance
Hold on,
to a
hold on. I
center
need to
point.
gain clarity. Hold on. Tent, were you asking in the context of physical reality that we experience or in the conceptual fourth dimensional space-time that is invented by Einstein 107 years ago?
the former, I was going to take steps before they came in with their second statement. Yes, the physical reality.
Sorry, it's just no, Arwin. No, he's not talking about conceptual mediums. He's talking about what would be described in physical reality if we were on a reified space ball with water not flying off it. You'd need some sort of force. You were right in the respect that if he was talking about pseudo-Riemannian force space-time bending, then it wouldn't actually be a force at all. But, you know, that juxtaposition between what is needed to keep water on a ball 107 years ago being moved into the conceptual from then until now doesn't alter that what 10th Man is asking about in terms of what it's overcoming is still a problem. Hence they haven't relinquished.
I thought he was going by the official
relinquished.
registered version of gravity.
I was just about to say, hence they haven't relinquished that version of gravity. That would be in name only Newtonian gravity. It's still taught in schools because throwing it into a fourth dimensional space-time mathematical conceptual medium we don't exist in, you still have the problem of keeping all the water on Earth when it's spinning. So they just keep teaching the 107-year out-of-date rhetoric of Newtonian gravity in name only to overcome that problem.
May I continue, please?
Sure.
Okay, so if that being said, Newtonian, which is what they said back then when you have a helium balloon and you let go, that force that's strong enough to hold everything else down doesn't affect that helium balloon or a butterfly or anything else with the small wings. All right, so they realized there was a problem. So then Einstein said, look, there's a problem in the real world. We got to get this out of the real world. So then they took it to force space, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's go with Arwen. So now what is that for audience sake? Why don't you go through that and then I'll follow up.
Is that a question?
Yeah, I'm letting Nathan tell us the story of why they dumped Newton and went to Einstein.
You've already done it, because gas doesn't go down, go boom, boom. If mass attracts mass, as is asserted in not Newtonian gravity, as I keep saying, Newtonian name only, actually C.V. Boy's, Reverend John Michell, and Cavendish gravity, which is the assertion that mass attracts mass. Well, gas has mass, in their vernacular, and it's not attracting other gas particles, quite the opposite. It's bouncing off them with elastic collisions. It's expanding in all directions. It's emerging from the ground and going up. So no, gas doesn't behave that way. It defies Newtonian, in name only, gravity. It's not mass attracting mass. Just going to read out this.
I said
Right,
this
but the
last week.
reason-
They had to come up with that
I think that's
because
where 10th's going.
it's
Go ahead,
proven.
10th.
Can I respond?
Yeah. Well, hang on, Arwen. But you had said it much better before when they took it out of the real world and put it into a concept. I want that explanation from you.
Well, you've got to start with why you would want to do that. Obviously, if the Newtonian explanation of gas going down, go boom, boom, actually matched with the physical reality, there'd be no need to move into the conceptual fourth-dimensional pseudo-Riemannian four-space-time bending explanation that Arwen gave earlier. That's only necessitated by the fact that gas doesn't go down, go boom, boom, and pool like bouncy balls poured into a fish tank, as asserted by a PhD clown known as Thunderfoot. That's not how gas behaves. Therefore, you have a reintroduction of a new, in-name only, gravity. Because it's not Einsteinian gravity, it's a conceptual medium that doesn't exist, and the description in mathematical terms of the fourth dimension bending. Because we don't experience mass attracting mass in physical reality. I'm going to read out this super chat. I'm sorry to break up your flow, 10th man. Godzilla for 37, thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Says, excuse me, President Biden has assured us that we live on a spinning ball. He also assured us that we're not in a recession. You're just not going to believe your stationary and empty belly, are you? Okay. Fair enough. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate the support, Godzilla. Also, shout out to Ben White, who's sent us a member super chat. Thank you very much indeed. I asked someone, is there any evidence of gravity? Gravitational lensing is proof of gravity. This is the answer I got. Observation of light in the sky. It's a begging the question fallacy, though, isn't it? Gravitational lensing. Gravitational lensing would be the description of your fourth-dimensional space-time bending. So conceptual mediums that bend to describe an observation of a phenomena that's not being described with a cause and effect relationship, but instead with a just-so story, with a reification of a non-force force that you can think of as a force that bends fourth-dimensional space-time we don't live in. That's gravitational lensing. There's a lot of begging the question going on there, but really appreciate your...
It's even worse than that, because does light have mass? No. So how could it even conceptually work within their model? It doesn't.
Wait, you can describe it mathematically.
How can gravity bend something that doesn't have mass? Really, I don't think people don't realize this.
Because the answer is because even us confuse the two systems. They just said that it's not relevant to the mass. It's a displacement of space-time itself. So what's bending it is a track. Imagine an imaginary train track. That's what's bending it, not a force. It's just a path that it takes. But anyway, the reason why they had to abandon
mass or density. So how can it even respond to alleged gravity of any form? It wouldn't.
Well, I just answered. The very matrix of space and time in which it exists has been displaced in coordinates, so it's now in a different location. There's the answer. But anyway, they had to abandon Newtonian because they're trying to make a universal level theory in principle. And Newton himself recognized that his theory, quote unquote, which never made it to a theory, to be honest, can't explain it because you need an infinite universe in order for his mass attracts mass to function. So he abandoned it. And in fact, he himself said anyone who believes this is nonsensical. So what they needed is a thing that was effectively infinite, being an expanding universe, hence relativity.
I'm sorry, but it still doesn't make any sense, right? If space
Well, yeah,
itself,
fair.
if the volumetric aspect is displaced because of gravitational lensing or whatever, how is that going to actually displace the light? It wouldn't. The light is just going to go through the displaced space unabated.
No.
There is no
No,
logical
not space.
conclusion
No.
that would
Stop.
make light bend.
Not space. No. The fabric of space-time. The mass bends the fourth-dimensional fabric of the space-time. Talking about geodesics in space-time now. We're not talking about what happens in reality. We're talking about what happens in the conceptual fourth-dimensional medium. And he's right.
It doesn't matter.
Hold on, Arwin. He also agreed with you. He's like, no, I'm not saying it makes sense. I'm just describing how they describe it. That's all he did. Very well, too.
Yeah,
I
fair.
agree with that,
and
but
if
it
you have
still
a
doesn't
train,
matter because
listen, if you have
even
a
within the
train,
conceptual medium, it
yeah,
doesn't
that's great.
can't actually do that.
Yeah, we know that. He's not
Okay.
saying it can.
We know that. It's not the point.
Just describing what they describe
do?
in pseudo-Riemannian force space. He's not saying that's physical or that happens or that's reality. It isn't. We know it isn't. You know it isn't. But you're rumpusing him while he's just detailing what's described in Einsteinian pseudo-Riemannian force space when the fabric of that fourth-dimensional space-time is bent by the uneven distribution of mass. That's how it's described. Does that make sense?
I understand that. I understand that. My point is, a bit nitpicky, is that even if you go with that time-space bending formula of reality and how it's supposed to work up to a certain degree, mostly mathematical, then even within that conceptual framework, it can't work. It doesn't make any sense. Light wouldn't bend, even in pseudo-Riemannian force
Check
space.
this out.
Makes no sense.
Check this out. I'll make it very simple. If you have a train and it has a track and the track deviates, the train follows the track. There you go. I don't know how much simpler I could put it.
I got
Well,
it.
yeah, you can see that the train tracks deviate, but that train's still going, right? The train being light, it's still going to go. Doesn't matter if the tracks are
Right,
not
but it
in
follows the
place they're
track.
supposed to be. The light's going to keep going.
Owen, right. The tracks remain parallel, right? And what he's saying is that's a straight path as far as the train's concerned. There's no steering wheel, right? Well, that's analogous to a bending geodesic in space-time. That's what he's comparing it to.
Yeah. And
That was a
light
good
would
one.
not be affected within pseudo-Riemannian force space.
It wouldn't,
there
but they're
is no
describing
way
it
that
as
it could bend.
they're describing it as moving straight, but also bending space-time, Arwin. You know, even in the description, I get what you're saying. You're saying it doesn't make sense mathematically either. I get what you're saying.
Exactly.
No, I do understand, and you're both right. But nobody here, we're all friends here. Nobody thinks this is real. We've just got a really good understanding of what it is described to be.
It's
Yeah,
just so
it's basically
farcical
like
that
this.
there's
If
this claim of gravity based on the light bending. When you dig into the material that's at the groundwork of these claims, that entire claim makes no sense within their presuppositions.
That's the
It
third
makes
time
no
you said
sense.
it. Thank you, Arwin. Just let me shout out Godzilla. Thank you for the super chat. He says, hey, free message. Hi, Chocolate.
Yo, what's up, Godzilla? Shout out to you, brother.
Thank you for the super chat.
Yo.
Go ahead, whoever it was that was speaking last.
Oh, by the way, Arwen knew the answer to the thing that 10th Man was punting him because he's the one that posited it in the show, like not a couple of months ago, where it was the conflict between Einsteinian and Newtonian and how they're used at disparate times to explain phenomena, but neither of them can explain the universe in total. That's why they have to do the bait and switch between them on the fly.
Yeah, sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't.
And each single viable
sometimes the universe...
Go on.
Sometimes the universe is infinite. Sometimes it's finite. Sometimes the Earth has a radius of, 3,000, and sometimes it has a radius of 40,000.
Sometimes the sun is
whatever's needed at the moment.
Sometimes the sun is 93 million miles away. Sometimes it's an infinite distance away. Sometimes the stars have got a measurable light-year distance, and sometimes they're an infinite distance. It just depends whether or not you're measuring a flat Earth elevation angle or not.
Whatever you need in
sometimes
the math.
you can ping. Sometimes you can ping the distance to the sun with radar, and sometimes it's a black body which absorbs everything.
Exactly. Hey, Eli.
Oh God, yes, that too.
Yellow.
Oh.
It's almost a black body. That was my favourite when QE first pointed out to me, because obviously black body's not an unfamiliar term to most people, me included. So I'm like, well, what does a black body mean? Well, it doesn't return anything. It absorbs all of it. So when they describe it as almost being a black body, it's like almost being a bit pregnant. What? No. You're either a black body or you're not. What are you talking about?
It's
No,
a
we get a
dark
return.
matter composite material.
We get a return signal. It's definitely sending back, but it's a black body, isn't it? No, it's not quite. What do you mean not quite? So it's not a black body. Why is it described as being a black body then? Just one of their typical contradictions in terms when they need an explanation to overcome some problem that they've got, and there's already a bit of rhetoric that says something about something. It doesn't matter to them. They just incorporate it with doublespeak. It's not like they have any issue with two different explanations being simultaneously accepted when you go into looking at citations. You know, that's most true with Coriolis effect than anything else. Well, Coriolis effect doesn't develop any effect. Everything's tracking with the Earth. Well, obviously it's all drifting apart at 15 degrees an hour. Here's my proof of it drifting. 15 degrees. That's the difference per hour. When there's no difference that you won't see because you wouldn't expect to see any. You're like, do you not see the glaring contradiction in what you're telling me? No, it's all perfectly reasonable. Here's a citation that contradicts itself. Therefore, that's what it's claiming. So it claims the very contradiction that you're telling me about then. All right. We'll fool you.
And that's the problem right there. Is that how much time do you think they spend trying to salvage their contradictions that their own narrative gives them, and then try to present that to some type of an audience to make it make sense?
Yeah, we've got a container.
That's literally what
kind of container?
All the time.
We've got a container. What kind of container? Well, it's an air container. Well, what do you mean? Well, the air's containing the air. Oh, okay. How well does it do that? Well, really well. It keeps all the air on Earth, apart from the helium. That has a diffusion rate into the sky vacuum. So it's a non-container that's containing stuff with gas that has gaps between it, and the gaps between it are holding other gas in and simultaneously letting other gas out. That's what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. Why is that? Well, because gravity. Oh, so you think there's a force that's not a force that we can think of as a force that's actually a fourth dimensional space-time bending that makes gas go down. Gas doesn't go down. It's created at ground level and makes its way up. I mean, it spreads out as it does so. It's called diffusion, as it's expanding in all directions at a high velocity. But it definitely isn't falling down like rain. That's liquid that does that. Gas doesn't behave like that. Gas doesn't go down, go boom, boom with gravity. It expands to fill a space. So space is a space for the gas we're breathing to fill. So while they might think they've got some non-container container that's gas with gaps that's actually containing, it isn't. It's just that space, outer space, is fake. It would be an area of volume that the gas we're breathing could fill. Is there any evidence that you can have the gas pressure that we're all enjoying without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
No, there is not.
Just more gas, apparently. So silly.
Or you have to think of gas as puddles. And then just the lighter gas like floats on the heavier gas like oil on water.
The gas container of gas contains all the gas that it contains except the gas that it doesn't contain. That checks out.
Exactly.
Ben White says the prior question was in relation to a sniper's bullet. The problem that seems to be overlooked is the assumption made of what is between the observer and the object, in this case, lights in the sky. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Ben White. Really appreciate it.
Nathan, when I get propane, they don't offer me a choice between a heavier gas as a container to carry the propane, the lighter gas, or say a solid metal container. They just put it in a solid metal container. But if what they were saying was true, can I ask for another way of carrying that propane home for my barbecue unit? Like, can you put some sulfur hexafluoride around the gas I'm buying and then put a handle on it so I can take it home?
Yeah, just put it in this wheelbarrow.
Well, that's a container still.
That's silly.
Yeah, but for gas pressure, you need a sealed container.
Yeah, it's the death of them,
If
isn't it?
you think that's silly, wait till you hear about this ball that's got gas pressure surrounding it, flying around while in a vacuum. Wait till you hear about that.
What
No,
kind
but
of
when
gas?
you give an example like 10 said, they say, well, you're being ridiculous now. But they're not putting it together that, yes, it is ridiculous. You need a container.
With all the people on this earth, what kind of gas are you talking about, Chocolate?
Say that again.
With all the people that populate this earth, what kind of gas are you talking about given their vernacular?
I think he's fishing for Atmo.
No, remember all the sci-fi
Nah,
movies?
apparently that's not a word, so that can't be an argument.
No,
It's a prefix.
no. Based on the sci-fi movies, with all the people, we can go to the farthest region of space.
Oh my god! You know, I was looking. I thought it was gonna be something like that, but it's not.
It's
Did anybody
very
wanna-
astute observation of you.
Come again?
I was just saying that was a very astute observation.
Astute.
Too-
I'd say that was a very cheeky comment.
Oh boy.
Let's move on. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Astrophysics. Right when we're having fun, you want to move on. Unbelievable.
Negative.
Dude, I thought you were moving on. Why are you talking about astrophysics?
Boom, boom!
Astrophysics.
What is there? Jokes and puns aside.
Nah. Nah.
Not as far
There's none of
as
that.
you can throw it.
Oh,
I mean,
goddamn.
they got phenomenons all day to look at, but as far as a viable hypothesis where you could actually have an independent variable that's manipulatable, I don't know. I don't know about that.
Right. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
That's hysterical.
Right, can someone fill dead air? I've
We did,
left
what
the
if-
windows behind my projector open, behind the screen, and there's somebody lawn mowing, so I'm going to have to go and figure that out. It'll take me a couple of minutes. Hopefully you won't leave dead air. Just give me a sec.
Well, when they put the globe model in front of you as a young child, and Chocolate, you had it hanging over your crib or your bed, right? The solar system, the way the globe has it. Yeah, so they programmed you from the beginning, and then when you are able to understand language, they say, oh, there's a molten iron core in the middle of this. So they've already programmed you. It's this ball flying through the vacuum of space. So what's not hard to accept if you're being programmed and conditioned that there's a molten iron core in the middle at this point?
I mean, that's cool and stuff when you're a kid, but when you're become an adult and you're like, oh, the furthest we've dug is about 8 miles, and supposedly this molten iron core starts where? How do we know that thing is there? I don't know. Looks like
Well,
a far cry from reality to me.
It seems like even if it's there, which it's not doing its job because gravity's not a force.
And if it's going to be the core, we would have to go back to question 1, right? Core would be at the core of a ball. That ball would also need curvature. I don't know if we got any of that. So
Can I give you the ultimate normie answer?
okay, Norby, go ahead.
Yeah. So, hey, well, if there wasn't a magnetic molten iron core, then what would prevent, there wouldn't be any magnetic field to prevent the solar radiation from killing everything on Earth.
Well,
Right?
they claim the magnetic field does that. That was a pointless endeavour. I shut the windows, and as soon as I did, you can just hear it from one of the other windows that are open. So I'm like, oh, I'm not going to close them all. So if you can hear lawn mowing sounds, my bad.
Nothing coming through here.
They stopped the
Have I
second.
missed the housekeeping questions, Nathan?
We're on molten iron core at the moment.
Have we got to? Is there any other evidence of Earth rotation?
We have covered it, but we'll come back to it after molten iron core gags are over.
Go on then.
Oh, it looks like they are. They've all got tuckered out and puns
The
for the
answer
molten
for
iron
that
core.
was C question 1.
Did Arwen not just ask a serious question that I've now almost sidetracked, or did I answer you, Aaron? I've forgotten already.
Yeah, he did. But then I would say to Arwen's question, who told you that? Are they the same people that told you the first one?
Yeah, well, where else am I going to get my information but from the priesthood? I'm a normie.
Right. So don't you want to vet it and make sure that you got the proper information, that it's logical, it could be either measured or verified somehow, or do you just accept what everyone tells you?
I have. I asked them, is this logical? And
Oh, you
tested,
asked
and
them.
they said yes.
Oh, okay. So you
Are you satisfied with that?
Well, I would have to be. I'm a
it not-
normie.
Yeah. Is it not an argument from silence? Along with a false dichotomy. In other words, it works the same as Whitsitt's argument for the ether. Well, there's nothing to disprove that there's anything to the contrary. Therefore, it must be my explanation of a molten iron core. And then you can stack that up in false dichotomy after you've got somebody to accept that. That there needs to be two explanations. One, which is, well, you can't just have no thing producing the molten iron core. You've got to have something
Nathan,
producing the... Go on.
That's about the magnetic field protecting us from the solar radiation. So it's like ping pong between two different presuppositions.
are you going to make a standalone, just that back and forth between you and Whitsitt
You are.
recording? Are you going to make a standalone, just show just the part you and Whitsitt were going back and forth the other day, which was really good?
Yeah, I'll definitely trim those bits out. There's several. There's
Okay.
quite a lot of meat on that bone, as it stands.
No, I'm saying in context, just from beginning to end, that's a good one to have.
Oh, you don't think I should do any editing to it?
No, you should do the editing for your shorts and then also release a full copy of the whole thing.
That would be the
Not-
edited video. I don't tend to just... It may seem that way because it flows nicely, but typically if you're watching something that isn't the original live show, it's had a significant amount of editing work done, even if it's a 15 to 20 minute video. It might seem like all of it, but it isn't.
No, I understand. I'm not saying that kind of editing. I'm saying so that from conception to end, we don't miss anything. Edit all you want, but just have it as one thing.
Okay, yeah, I'll cut and edit the debate with Whitsitt into a standalone video.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Okay, so I was outside in the garden before and I was looking up to the sky and I saw this unusual phenomena and I wondered what was the cause of the phenomena that I was observing. And essentially I'm looking at a contrail through a layer of clouds, low-lying clouds. And it just so happens to be in the picture, there's a telephone wire across the bottom corner and you can see which is moving relative to what. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to claim that we are looking perfectly west and that the contrail is traveling perfectly west. And bear in mind that pendulums are claimed to show the rotation of Earth because the pendulum is supposed to be drifting. And that's supposed to because it's not. They say it's not connected to the Earth and it's in a different frame of reference. And the Earth moving around it is supposed to prove that the Earth rotating, right? It stands to reason that everything that's not in the same frame of reference as the Earth must also drift too. Now they claim that the Coriolis effect, that the atmosphere rotates with the Earth. Well, if that was the case, and planes are not in that, and they're supposed to be suffering the effects of Earth's turn, this is what we should see with contrails all the time. We should see the clouds relative to the contrail moving at different frames of reference. and it should show that there is apparent drift perceived. And obviously we don't see it. But if the Earth was turning, we would always see this effect, always, because the plane is not moving in the same frame of reference as the Earth rotation. And this would appear to the observer as drift, but we don't see it. Does anybody want to pass any opinions on this? I think it's a brilliant video.
Well, that's absolutely great. We don't see drift. We should see drift. They claim we will see drift. They claim there's 15 degrees an hour of it observable in a second reference frame. That's anything not attached to a spinning reference frame. In order to see this drift, called Coriolis effect, which they claim, we must be on an Earth that's turning beneath things that aren't attached to see the drift. There isn't any drift. Anthony's saying, look, here's an example of nothing drifting. Now, don't get me wrong, you could get your nitpickers that come along and say, that's not a wide enough time frame to see Earth turning beneath to cause Coriolis effect. The only way it's induced, if you turn beneath things, you will see a Coriolis effect in an inertial reference frame that isn't attached to your reference frame that's spinning beneath it. That's the globe Earth claim. So for it to be true, we must be turning beneath stuff and we're not.
Because if we were turning underneath the plane and the plane was separate to us the way that pendulums are claimed to be, then you would see contrails doing this all the time. It would always be in a westerly direction because the Earth is rotating from the west to the east. And we don't see this. This is a one-off. This doesn't happen all the time, does it? It's a one-off occurrence. But it should be all the time. We should always see it. It doesn't happen, though. Brilliant video.
This looks like some clouds to me, no offence, with a telephone graph wire as reference. But there's nowhere near enough duration to claim anything.
You're not seeing the contrail. You're not seeing the contrail move different.
I know what it is. You've just explained it to me. I'm not dumb. I'm just saying that the time frame isn't long enough for anybody to claim anything in that regard. But yeah, I know, your point is still 100% valid. The fact that it's got some visual aid to go with it is great.
And now I'll play ball.
Do you think that would be the same thing? My bad, I didn't mean to cut you off. But do you think that would be the same thing as because I've seen video where there are star trails, like they do the time lapse with the star trails, and then you'll have an airplane fly completely straight line, you see, from the airplane, but you got the star trails above it completely circular. And it's like, something's not stirring the Kool-Aid here, because the only thing that's supposed to be moving is the Earth here. So what the hell is that about? You got a straight line going through these star trails, which are completely circular. Then you got this contrail from the plane completely straight, when that should be deviating just as well.
Exactly.
Just for completeness, I'll now play the ball earther, the anti-flat earther position, just to show the alternative perspective. This is proof that the Earth is turning, Riley. You're so stupid. You're showing that's the Coriolis effect. You're showing that the planes are turning. The Earth's turning, the planes appear to be turning. That's apparent drift. Welcome to flat ball Earth. That's what they would say. That's their argument. That
would shorten flight times. If that is actual drift that we're observing, so the claim is by the globe that Earth turns beneath the clouds and the flight because they're not attached, and you're spinning beneath them to see them appear to drift. The apparent deflection, i.e. the thing in the inertial reference frame, plane or cloud, isn't actually doing anything in regards to what you're going to describe. And what you're going to describe is the appearance of it taking a curved path that isn't real. Just looks that way because you're turning beneath. So you only have this effect if you're turning beneath and the globes claim to have it. It's called Coriolis effect. So it'll only be in effect if we're turning beneath, and the effect is us looking at it going, oh wow, it looks like it's curving. That's Coriolis deflection according to the globe Earth claim. Why are the stars curving through your field of view at 15 degrees now? Because Earth's claim to turn beneath them. That's why you see that effect according to the globe. But that means you're turning beneath aeroplanes. Now when this example comes forth, you've got two different reference frame being convoluted into the one. One's showing a drift, 15 degrees an hour in the stars. The other isn't. But we're supposed to be turning beneath this stuff to have the effect. So you shouldn't have this contradiction. But we do, because Earth's not turning.
Yeah, they don't like talking about it when it comes to planes, because they want to ignore planes, because that's where you would perceive drift if it really was drifting. But when it comes to pendulums, they would definitely want pendulums to be proven drift there. But they say, oh, it's powered flight. So they claim exemption. Well, powered flight or not, if it's not connected to the Earth and it's in a different frame of reference, we've got to perceive drift. It should be all contrails should do this. and it should always be westerly. Doesn't happen though.
Yeah, the drift will be always, without exception, because if you're, let's say you're on a roundabout, it doesn't matter how fast you're moving on the roundabout, which way you're facing on the roundabout. If something isn't attached to the roundabout, from your position, it looks like it's moving in a strange path that it isn't really moving in. Doesn't matter if it's a tree limb hanging over the top of the roundabout. It's obviously rooted into the ground, but as you look up at it, turning beneath, because you're turning beneath, the branch looks like it's moving. That's the effect. Something moving or looking like it moves when it doesn't really. Well, Coriolis is something looking like it takes a curved path, not because it really does, but because you're claimed on a turning Earth to be turning beneath it. So we're claimed to be turning beneath aeroplanes, and that would shorten their flight times.
Isn't this the part where they would then say, we don't understand what the globe Earth claims? We don't understand the model. We're stupid, because that's what all I ever see from them. Nathan doesn't understand.
I've got a nice swift reply now.
North to south.
Well, my swift reply is the globe claims Coriolis effect. Are you going to launch into something that isn't an explanation about how we're turning beneath things? Because that's the only way to induce a Coriolis effect. The only way to experience what the globe claims, let's get that clear, Coriolis effect, is if you are turning beneath things. So the globe claims we are turning beneath things to experience Coriolis effect. That's definitely the claim. So when they start explaining how Earth and atmosphere move together, well, that's not going to induce Coriolis effect, because Coriolis effect, which is what the globe claims, only occurs if we're turning beneath things.
I did actually see a valid point from Akumo virus the other day. He said, Nathan doesn't understand what the Earth claims. He says that Coriolis effect, by definition, only affects north to south. By exclusion, or by implication, he was inferring that it didn't affect anything east to west. So if it goes north to south and only north to south, then it's called Coriolis. But if it goes 179 degrees and 1 degree instead of 180 and 0, then that's not Coriolis, because it's not true north and true south. And that was the point he was making. By definition, if it's not true north and true south, then it's not Coriolis.
No, incorrect. Coriolis effect is only induced and observed if you turn beneath things. It is, by definition, the not actual deflection observed from a non-inertial turning reference frame, aka spinning roundabout or claimed to be turning Earth, of an item appearing, that's not actual, to deflect in the inertial reference frame. So if we take the example with your incorporated chemo criticism of north and south, and we have a roundabout, it makes no odds if I write north, south, east, west off the roundabout or on the roundabout. When I toss a ball over the top of it and watch it look like it's curving when it's travelling in a straight path because I'm turning beneath it, it makes absolutely no directional difference whatsoever. You just see it seem to curve when it isn't really, because you're turning beneath it. It's the only way the effect is induced or described.
I think it's the topic, it's the one topic where they convolute it so much that it ends up being a total confusion of the point. The point is that if Earth is turning, then we've got to see the effect of it in the sky. We don't see the effect of it in the sky. End of argument, end of globe. It's that simple.
Well, therefore, Earth isn't turning. You had a nice logical syllogism. Yeah. Excellent. Perfect.
And it would be simple. We would just see this all the time, everywhere. Because that's what's happening, right? So it's not like we wouldn't see it. We wouldn't even have to debate it. It would just be a thing that's happening that we see. And we don't.
Excellent. Yes, there is no Coriolis drift at 15 degrees an hour. Nothing is drifting away from my location at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator. That doesn't happen.
I did get a good comment. He said, I watched the overhead wire in the video. Relative to the cloud, relative to it, the clouds and the clouds all move, but the contrail does not. So he was changing the perspective by referencing the frame of reference being the wire that is in the bottom right-hand corner. And he's right. The wire is not moving relative to the cloud. well, relative to the contrail. So it's like by changing the perspective, changes how you perceive it. But the point is, if the Earth was turning, we should see that all the time, always. We never see it, ever. It's rare that you ever get that. It's just a fluke set of weather, like environmental factors that make it possible. But you don't see that often. So it's like,
Well,
it's a good day to be on our side.
But if they claim, it doesn't matter if it's from our side as a misapprehension or from an anti-flat earther's side, or from a novice globe believer that doesn't realise his own claim, it makes no odds. To have this effect, that's Coriolis effect induced, you must be turning beneath. If a globe believer, anti-flat earther or novice comes along and declares that they have a proof of Coriolis effect, which is the globe claim, then they're claiming to have a proof that Earth turns beneath things for us to see them seem to drift. That's what Coriolis is. You have to be part of a turning reference frame turning beneath things to have the effect. The moment they try to convince you that they have a proof, for example, gyroscopes. Thanks, Bob. You've proved Earth turned beneath the gyro at 15 degrees an hour. All right, so Earth is a non-inertial turning reference frame turning beneath things at 15 degrees an hour, like gyros, pendulums, bullets, footballs, and the stars. He's proved that, has he? Well, that means Earth is turning beneath helicopters and hot air balloons and flights at 15 degrees an hour, and that would significantly shorten the flight times on a plane. It would mean a helicopter taking off on the equator would drift away from your position at 1,000 miles an hour. It would mean hot air balloon could launch up, effectively only go in a straight path upwards, but from your position on the ground, it looks like it's drifting away from you on the equator 1,000 miles an hour, said nobody ever. Because hot air balloons do not drift away from your position turning beneath them at the equator at 1,000 miles an hour. They can go up in the air and land exactly where they came from if there's no wind. They definitely don't drift away from you 1,000 miles an hour because Earth's turning beneath them to see Coriolis effect, and that's the only way we'll see the effect. If we're turning beneath them, we're not. Did we cover everything in the housekeeping? Everyone's racking their brains going, did we cover everything? What was every question? Any evidence of the R value? Earth radius?
R, that old bird. Black Swan.
Yeah, we covered it in the first question. Nice to come back on yourself, though, to wrap things up nicely 5 minutes before the end of the live show.
Yep.
I think there's a valid question that we should be asking now. Is like we should be asking anti-flat earthers, not the average normie, just anti-flat earthers. Could they recommend any honest flat earther, any honest ball earther, so that we can have a conversation? Because as far as I can see, every single one of them lies, all of them. There isn't a single one. I asked George Nutsack, did he think that Rumpus was honest? And he said yes. I was like, really? So Rumpus is considered to be honest by George Nutsack.
I've got an example. He's definitely not. See, Rumpus declared that he'd always expressed the notion of the refracted horizon when I challenged him on his use of a physical geometric tangent point horizon when debating the Isle of Man. And on no less than 3 separate occasions, he claimed he had always refracted the horizon. Absolute, outright lie. Now, when he was using a physical geometric tangent point Earth curve edge for a horizon at the Isle of Man, blocking its view with a physical feet and inches value to claim that it's Earth curve, he had in his possession Andrew Thomas Young's description of the refracted horizon. He just chose to claim it was a physical limitation, a hill called Earth curve, when saying it was blocking the Isle of Man, and then lied about it later. So that is the reason he's not welcome here, because he is a proven liar. That would be Rumpus. Just in case George Netcheniuk wanted an example, there's a video on it with a pair of pants on fire in the thumbnail. He's a proven liar.
Yeah, he also thinks that gas molecules behave like bouncy balls. He thinks that gravity pulls them down.
So what you're saying is back then he was already aware that Andrew Thomas Young did all his refraction calculations on a flat plane. Is that what
Yes,
you're saying?
that's correct.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we see them do this all the time. I've seen Rumpus go into other chats. So, for example, Jose's chat, not specifically Jose's chat, but I'll see him go into other chats and he'll go in there and he'll be arguing for Newtonian gravitation, knowing that Newtonian gravitation is no longer the current position in science. It's been replaced, superseded, debunked by Einstein. But if he can get away with it, as long as he can preach that message, Rumpus will do that, even though he knows it's wrong.
That's what liars do.
No, that's called a deceiver. That is a deceiver.
Yep.
Same thing.
I agree.
Same thing. What's the difference?
I mean, when have you ever seen a ball earther correct another ball earther and say, well, actually, gravity's not a force, it's an effect of the curvature of space-time caused by the uneven distribution of mass that we perceive as an acceleration, a visual acceleration, more akin to a refraction? When have you ever seen them say that? Never, ever.
I could,
ever.
if we were ball earthers, Anthony, I could respond to you in that question being asked with the response, but how does it know to be food? And you would pat me on the back as a ball earther.
How does it know to be food?
Oh my God, I was thinking the same thing, Nathan.
We could talk completely past each other, and my response to you could be so non sequitur that nobody, even if they were insane, could keep up with the conversation because it's totally non sequitur response. And even in spite of that, we would still pat each other on the back like we'd just had a coherent conversation if we were ballers or anti-flat earthers.
Yeah.
That's exactly why Rumpus goes there. Because he wants to be patted on the back.
I was watching Bev Try Thinking dissecting a Blue Marble Science video where Blue Marble Science was trying to dissect Bev Try Thinking's video, so it was a bit weird to keep up with it. But basically, a guy had gone into Blue Marble Sciences, and Blue Marble Sciences said, hey, spaghetti measured angles or something like that. It was a reference to the show, and he says, good job. And I was like, he was wrong on that point. And Blue just didn't even understand that the guy was being criticised on the applied point that he was congratulating him on. And I was like, this is just delusion. It's like you don't realise that the guy was being criticised and was demonstrated to be wrong because you need two straight lines for an angle. You can't have a spaghetti angle. And he's there patting him on the back. It's like, hello.
We do.
Anthony, in their world, they can have that. That's the whole thing. Bendizanto.
You're talking about the spaghetti angle that was used by Ruhif in the John discussion, if that's what you're talking about. He criticised John when John tried to qualify how you could derive a straight line through the wiggly ones, and he was berated on the spot for it, to later have that be precisely what they applied. You realise that, right? Is that what you mean by spaghetti angle? He's probably dealing with a dog right at the wrong moment, isn't he?
No, I think the spaghetti thing, I think there was a guy named, what was his name? I Can Science That or something, who took spaghetti and put it on top of a cell phone, and that's how he was establishing a horizontal plane.
What?
Because you know how Bev's...
Just say that again.
You know how Bev's thing is levels horizontal, and that a water level is a tool for establishing a horizontal plane of reference.
That is not what you just said, but go on.
No, I know. But he had a guy named I Can Science That go on his show and try to prove, first of all, this guy claimed that science teaches us that water level is not a tool to establish a horizontal plane of reference, right? He says that science teaches that. And he also said that he's a teacher, engineer, teacher, something like that. But anyway, to discount what Bev did, and to claim that what Bev did was wrong. What he did was simply take a piece of spaghetti and put it on top of a cell phone and claim that he just established a horizontal plane with spaghetti on a cell phone.
With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hit the thanks button and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream, and I will see you all in the next video.